Well, here I am again, and I'm using my 4 and 1/2 inch square box. It is full. I have to use some of those squares. So I took some out and looked at them and tried to figure what I would like to make. And I picked out a piece of fabric as an inspiration piece of fabric and sort of picked some colors from that. Then I went through the square box and I picked out squares that I wanted to use. Having all the squares cut and put into a box like that is so easy. It took me about 20 minutes or less just to pick out the squares that I want to use. And here on my design wall, I have started putting up the squares. You see on the left-hand side is the inspiration piece. It's a bunch of butterflies. And I thought that was kind of cute. So there's green and blue and yellow and red and lots of colors in that. So it really turned out nice. And so what I did was I first of all randomly put all the blocks on the wall, and I didn't like that. So I started sorting them. And I sorted them into three similar colors in a row and making 9-patch blocks. And that worked out really, really fast. So here's a review of how to make 9-patch blocks very quickly and getting very good results. I have my 9 blocks sitting in a row on my desktop in the order I want to sew them. I have 3 blues, 3 purples, 3 yellows in this case. And I start always my sewing machine. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch seam foot. I take one of the blocks from the center pile and place it on top, and I sew that together. This is real time. And before I lift up the presser foot, I'm going to chain piece the next 2 blocks in the series. And again, without lifting up the presser foot at the end, I'm going to place the last 2 blocks. These are 4.5 inch blocks. They go very quickly. When you're using 1.5 inch blocks, my fingers get a little bit stiff trying to open up and close and do things and pick things up. But these 4.5 inch blocks go fast. And so at the end of the row, stop, take it out from under the presser foot, and open it out without cutting any threads. And now I'm going to take the 3 yellow ones and sew them individually onto the ends of the rows without stopping, without cutting thread. I turned off the sound of the sewing machine because I found it was annoying. You just have to listen to me. I guess I should talk in between. What will I say? And finally, here's the last one going on. Again, not stopping, just sewing straight through to the end. Et voila. And when you come to the end, take it out from under the presser foot, open it out. You see they're all attached. You can hold it up. It's not going to fall apart. And now I fold one section over the other section. And I'm now going to sew the seam. And with them in that order, I can sort of hold the 2 ends as I'm sewing, the end farthest away from me and the end closest to me, and I can lock the seams in place in one direction on the bottom and one direction on the top. They always lie flat, and that way it makes it so easy to press those seams and get a flat appearance on the surface. So I just make sure that I'm not sewing anything underneath that I don't want to, but basically stitch across the 2 seams, and that is all you really need to do with this. And if you're any good, your blocks are going to be perfectly, you don't have to trim them up. And the seams match. And it's just so easy. So when I do the third line, the second line on this, I always make sure that I look at the seams of the previous seam that I just sewed, and I keep that on the top side so I can make sure that I'm turning the seam allowance in the correct direction, because now you want to have it turned sort of in the opposite direction of the last time. And that way the whole seam is going to stay flat, and it's going to be a good visual appearance on the outside, on the good side of the fabric. So there you go. I'll just hold it up and show you. All the seams are there. It just needs a nice press. But generally, it seems to work for me pretty well all the time, and I don't have to trim those, and I don't have to do anything, and when I press it, they stay flat. So on the iron, I have a little ironing board right beside where I work, and I can press blocks individually as I'm going. Use a bit of steam. I always use a bit of steam on my seams. And I'm going to be all about pressing these in one direction. Both seam allowances are going to go in the same direction, but you know, that block in the center, you want to have those going in opposite directions to get them to stay flat. One time I got some fabric that was a cotton polyester blend, cotton polyester blend, and I ironed it, and the steam jet just caused the whole thing to shrivel up, and it wasn't cotton polyester at all. Some fiber in it just melted. Anyway, I had to take that apart. That has nothing to do with this. Anyway, so there's a block, three threes and threes, and a nice 9 patch, and it works fine. So then I go over to the wall and put them on the wall. There are all of my 9 patch blocks in sort of a nice color array. I think that looks pretty good. And you see the inspiration fabric on the side. The green one is nice. I've got on the other side a couple of other pieces that I was thinking about using, but I need to now make something to join the blocks together, and rather than just join them straight together, I'm going to cut some strips of a piece of fabric about 1.5 inches wide, because I want this quilt, when it's done, to be 40 inches wide. So there I go, putting the first strip in place just to test it, and it's a nice color. So now that I've decided that squiggly pink line is going to be the sashing in the quilt, I just have to sew the 3 pieces across the top with 12.5-inch strips. I cut the strips 1 1/2 inches wide. So I join the 3s together, and then I use the longer pieces that I've cut to join the strips together. And then I add around the outside the final strip of 1 1/2-inch fabric. So now that's almost put together. I always make sure that I press the seams of the 9 patches towards the strip that I'm adding as the sashing. It lies better and it stays flatter in the final quilt when you're quilting it. So there are all the pieces, and at the other left-hand side I have a backing put together, 2 pieces of fabric. The center part is birds and the outside is that butterfly that I used as my inspiration. Now I just have to quilt it. Bye.